So today we're going to look at our sequence of returns and how that affects your um, your portfolio. So what we're looking here is, let's say you decide to, this is, let's say it's year 1995 and you're ready to retire. You just turned 70 years old and you have, and your um, end income, last year's income was $150,000 and you have 12 years of income saved. So you basically have $1.8 million and you're ready to retire. So you leave all that in your portfolio, in the market portfolio, just a S&P 500 diversified portfolio. And we're going to look at a couple of different scenarios. So what basically happened is, like, so you live it there, and in 1995, as you can see, the market return was really good. It was about 38%. So your dollar return on that beginning balance was $685,000. The ending balance was almost $2.5 million. And here you are withdrawing about 80% of your final year's salary every year. So you're, in this example, we're looking at final year salary as $150,000, and 80% of that is $120,000. And then after you withdraw $120,000, your ending balance becomes $2.3 million. And the next year you have 22% return, almost 23% return, and it sort of keeps going on like that. And the thing is that now in 2015, I mean, these are actual returns from, these are actual market returns for S&P 500. So now you're in 2015, you started with a portfolio of $6.3 million. And even if you were to take out 120,000 like any time right now, you're still going to have a little over $6 million in your portfolio. So that's really good, considering that we had two bear markets from 2001 to 2002, like from 2000 to 2002, where there were negative return. And then the other big one was 2008, where there was 36% decline. And 2015 is basically flat. So even in the 20-year period, there were 1, 2, 3, 4 years of negative return. And then you basically went through two bear market, and you still ended up with like $6.1 million, which is great. But now let's look at the other way. So let's assuming that, okay, because we can't really predict what the return is going to be next year, and these could be somewhat random. But then let's say it's 1999, after the tech bubble, you have a lot of money in your portfolio. Then you finally got to that $1.8 million saved, and then you decide to retire. So in 1999, so basically in 2000, year 2000, let me copy this over here. So basically in year 2000, the market went down went down about 10%, and right off the bat you lost like about $175,000. Your ending balance went down, and then if you were to withdraw $120,000, which is the plan, if you were to withdraw $120,000, what's going to happen is that by the time you come to year 2013, are going to be out of money. So basically, near 2013, you're not going to have enough money to withdraw $120,000 because by the end of year 2012, you're only left with $80,000, and then $80,000, and then even with that 32% increase in 2013, it only brings it up to 106. So now you will be short 100, like about $13,000. So basically, I mean, what thing I'm trying to say here is that your sequence of return does matter. So, I mean, we had the exact same return, and it matters more when you are actually taking the money out from the market. So when you're in your accumulation phase, it doesn't matter so much. We keep on adding to it, and then historically the market has gone up. So if your time horizon is really long, it's not going to be an issue. But then let's say you're about 70 years old, you're past, your big money making years or where your income was going up. Now you want to retire and you want to take the money out from there. Then in that case, it is going to be an issue. One of the things that you usually hear a lot of financial advisors, or when you're reading all these financial planning stuff, you notice is that you withdraw 4% of your income. So let's try this, that 4% of your balance. So we have 0.04 times your ending balance. So we'll just drag this down. So what you did is that just so you withdraw 99,000 the very first year, and then 116. So if the market does go up, you withdraw more. By default, it becomes more, even though when it's only 4%, and when the market's down, it becomes less. But when you look at this particular scenario, you notice that okay, the very first year you can only withdraw 99,000, and what if you need 120,000 to live? One of the things is like you can certainly reduce your expenses, but if you do need 120,000 to live, then with that 4% is not going to be enough. But then again, when you come to the year 20, let's say if you're at 70 years over here, and when you're 90 over here, and all of a sudden you have $205,000, which is great, which is absolutely amazing, but maybe you don't need $205,000. Yeah, maybe you want it to be consistent. That's the one issue with like doing the 4% rule. And again, when we look at the other sequence, let's say if you, when you decide to retire and the next few years the market were not as good, then what happens if you do 0.4%? Okay, I gotta put an equal sign here. 0.4% times your ending balance. So you are withdrawing, if the market goes down after when you're ready to retire, you put your $1.8 million that you've worked so hard, which is like 12 times your ending yearly salary. And then now all of a sudden you have only $65,000 that you can withdraw. So now imagine like you had $150,000 in the last year, and your goal is to, and 65 is basically less than 50% of your last year's salary. So that could be enough. And not only that, the other issue that you see here is that, okay, you won't run out of money when you only do the 4% withdrawal thing. But the problem is that there are, this is 17 out of the 20 years where you you could withdraw less than $100,000. I mean, there are a lot of years where you could even withdraw $50,000, and is that going to be a problem? So $50,000, so that's what, roughly $4,000 a month, and is that going to be enough? So if so, let's say if you have pretty much everything paid off, like cars paid off, home paid off, you still have to pay the property tax and the registration on your cards, property tax on the house, and let's say if you do have medical insurance and the kids are out of your house and they're even better, they're independent and they have their own job, and so in that case, if you don't really, if you can live on $4,000 a month, then in that case, I mean, this is great because assuming that with that 4%, you won't at least run out of money unless we see a prolonged bear market. If we see a couple of years of negative return back to back, like then in that case, I mean, you may run out of money, but the problem is that you so for many people that might be an issue. Like with the 4%, that might not give you enough money to retire. So so in this case, so I mean, there's if you can predict what the market will do, then in that case, uh, I guess you have the 8 ball. If you have the 8 ball, then that's not an issue. But then if you do not know, um, one of the things you could do is basically buy some sort of index annuity or fixed income annuity, at least with the part of the balance, so that you do have some money coming out. So the way I see it is like, let's say if you decide to retire when in 1999 you decide to retire and you put your $1.8 million and the market was great. I mean, it was 20%, went up 20% in 1998-9, and it was up like 25, more than 25% the past few years. And then you're really excited. Everybody's excited, but then all of a sudden we see 10% decline in 2013. And so in this case, you at the end of 2000, you are left with $1.6 million, and then after withdrawing 4%, you're left with $1.5 million. So let's just to make it, like, let's say you want to have 12,000, be able to withdraw 12,000 every year. Oh, I should put it in the withdrawal side. So if you want to withdraw $12,000 every year, so you know that based on this scenario, you'll run out of money in 2012. So you can basically take 500,000 of that balance and then buy an annuity that will give you $720 per month, and then every month for 12 months. So that's for each $100,000. So then for $500,000, you're gonna get 5 times 12 times 720. So you will end up with, so you'll get $43,000 every year, and then you only need about 77,000 77,000 that you need to withdraw from here. And then this will sort of change. So I'm gonna take this and put it over here. So so now all of a sudden this, after you notice this, I'm gonna highlight it in red. Now that's the scary part. And then so you have $1.5 million, and then so now let's say you have only $1 million because you bought for $500,000. So then the market goes down 11%. You're at $882,000. So you need how much do you need? So it's $120,000. That's the goal. So you need this minus this, so 76,800. So you basically withdraw $76,800 every year. And even after doing that, you will still run out of money after year 2014. So here you would have run out of money in year 2013, but over here you run out of money in year 2014. But the good thing of doing this is, compared to this particular scenario on top, is that once you run out of money in year 2013 here, these are your portfolio, this value becomes zero, and then everything from here you are not having money at all. Whereas once you run out of money here from your portfolio, you will still get 43,200 based on the annuity payment. So that's where, I mean, so we still have to look at the risk and return. And if you are the lucky one, if you're one of the lucky one, and then and what I mean by that is, like, if you when you decide to retire, you have that enough money, like 12 times your final ending salary, and then the market does really good. The market does really good, then you're in pretty good shape. You will probably not run out of money, unless we see a prolonged bear market, which we haven't seen, but doesn't mean that we'll never see. But then you're in pretty good shape. You can withdraw however you want to do it. Like, so even if your finally your salary is 150,000, and you want to be able to have $150,000, if you had done it like in 1995, you retire with $1.8 million, then you can withdraw $150,000 every year and still leave your beneficiaries or your charity significant amount of money. You can even withdraw more, and so you can you'll have enough to pay for your grandkids' education. You can donate to other causes that you care about. So in this case, so if you happen to be in this scenario, annuity might not be the best solution. I mean, there are, if the market's doing so good, and you have significant amount of money, and the market's going up, so there's no need to worry about. But what happens if the market doesn't do as good as you are ready to retire? Then in that case, you
won't be able to withdraw 80% of your final year salary. You probably have to go with that 4% of your ending balance. And then the only problem with that 4% of the ending balance is that sometimes it could be less than 50% of what your final year salary was. So if that happens, then are you are you prepared? I mean, with that much, with that, if if you're making $150,000 and then all of a sudden next year you get only $50,000, are you going to be okay? I mean, maybe if you have mortgage and then you have car payments, or if you're trying to help your kids with their school education cost, or if you have some grandkids and you want to help them out too, then that's not going to be enough. I mean, that could be just enough for you if you don't have any other major expenses. And then, mind you, the other big expense that's a lot of people are going to see is medical cost. And so, in this case, um, you you'll run out of money basically in 2013. But if you were to take part of that money after the market went down, part of the money, and buy an annuity, then at least the good thing is that you will run out of money in your retirement fund. And it'll last one more year than had you not put the annuity. But then the good thing is that the annuity is going to keep paying you for the rest of your life. So at least you'll have partial income coming back. So if something like this does happen, so like, let's say if you come up with that $1.8 million and then the market goes down right away, it might be a good idea to just put some of that money to annuity. Or let's say you, in this case, if you had, so you have $150,000 and then you put everything into annuity. So right now we're thinking about like, so 500,000 gives you 43,000 a year. So 150,000 gives you that times 3, so 130,000. So basically you won't have, your beginning balance would go back to zero just because you bought annuity for everything, but then you'll get 129,000 129,000 for the rest of your life. The only problem is that, one of the reasons why people don't buy annuities because they think, okay, what if I die soon and then, uh, the money is gone. But that's one of the risk and benefit that you have to think about. So, you can certainly look at some of these scenarios, and if uh, depending on when, the other thing you could do is, like, let's say you start with $1.8 million, it goes down to $1.5 million. So we'll put this as the next year's salary. So next year's return. So then now, are you skilled enough, or are you willing to go back to work to get that other $300,000? And it might even take way longer. I mean, so I don't know how long it'll take you to save $300,000, and then instead of retiring, I mean, you can certainly go back to work, and then if you, let's say, you work for 3 years, and then these are 3 years where it was actually really hard to find work. 2001, 2, 3, 3 is when we sort of started with the housing thing, and then the economy started doing better with basically 0% interest rate. And so there are always trade-offs I guess it sort of depends on what you need the most or what you value the most. If you want to be able to, if you want to take the risk and you're more concerned about, okay, I want it to be, if there's enough money, I want it to give it to the kids and things like that, and I'm willing to take that risk, then yeah, sure, this is, you can certainly do that. Um, Otherwise, you can buy an annuity right away, where with the $1.8 million, you get $129,000, and if you live for 20 years, I mean, yeah, I mean, however long you live, it's not going to be an issue at all. I mean, you will get the money. But then if you were to die after 5 years, then you basically got 600,000. So you got one third of what you paid in, and two third is sort of gone. And it's like this is kind of like buying insurance. I mean, imagine if everybody that bought insurance got into an accident, then all of a sudden the rates would be really, really high. So there's about maybe 5% or even less of the policyholders that get into an accident, and then the 95% of the people who didn't get into an accident but still made the payment sort of make up for and pay for the other guy's accident. So it's the same concept, but sequence of return is really important when we are thinking about distribution. When you're accumulating your money, the sequence of return is not such a big issue, because if you have money in the retirement and then one year might be 20% up and the other might be 15% down and then 30% up, 10% down, um, then in that case, yeah, it's fine, as long as you enter your accumulation phase. But then it becomes really important when you are in your distribution phase. And in the next one, what I'll do is like I'll take this and further break it down into how they say if you are 70 years of age, then you need to have 30% in stock and rest like 70 in fixed income. And as you probably know, that fixed income isn't really paying us anything. So I, I have a feeling that it will pretty much give you something similar situation. But then, um, but so just one of the things to think about is that, why having an income that you cannot outlive is really important. Because as you can see up here, is that once you run out of money after year 13, then what are you going to do? I mean, it's um, it's tough. You start with like 1 point, you work so hard, you get that $1.8 million, 12 times your annual salary, feel pretty good. I mean, that's a significant amount of money. And then you are withdrawing like 10% of 80% of your final year salary. Um, so the other thing is that, obviously if you, like, let's say you're at $60,000 only, that's about $5,000 a month, and you can get a few $1,000 more from the Social Security. In that case, if you're withdrawing only $60,000 a year, if you have $1.8 million and withdrawing $60,000 a year, then um, this is. I mean, if you can live on that, that's you not need annuity. But then, if you to, if you need more money, then and if you drawing even, let's say, $100,000, let's see what $100,000 is. If you are withdrawing $100,000 a year, uh, you will have about $355,000. I mean, this is assuming. So what I did over here is like I took that return from 2000 to 2015 as it was, and then these years I took the return from 95, 96, 97, 98, 99, and then as you can probably tell, like we haven't had that kind of return in a long time. Yeah, we had like 32% return in 2013. And 2003 was actually pretty good with 28%, but this is coming off a bear market. And then, so we haven't, this might be a little too optimistic return. So if we were to change it to, let's say, 10%, just to make it better, that in that case, you even with 100,000, you are gonna run out of money. So just to say that, I mean, the other thing is that, I mean, we, for some people, just depending completely on the stock market return and performance to uh, pay for your living expenses when you're old may not be the best idea. At the same time, it doesn't necessarily mean that you just go and buy an annuity for everything you have. The market historically has gone up, has done much better, but at the same time, it's just having multiple sources of income and at least having one income that you cannot outlive is very important. So what you can do is, like, let's say we come to this again, the scenario, and then we do we buy $43,000. We buy annuity for $500,000. So now our balance is like the ending. So we start with 1.8. The market went down 9-10%. Where ending balance was $1.5 million. We spent $500,000 into buying annuity that gives us $43,000 a year, about $720 a month. There's some that even go up to $750 and some as low as $700. So I sort of look at it and then I found $720 to be a good round number. And so we come up with that $1 million, and so now market went down. So in this case, if the market goes down, you basically what you do is like you just buy, like, get 4%, 0.04 times. You drop 4%. You withdraw 4%, and you withdraw 4% only, and then so that's 35,000. 35,000, and then you have 43,000 that's coming from the annuity. So that gives you about $78,000. And then the market goes down again. Then that goes down a little bit, but then you're still in the market. And then as the market does go back up, then you can withdraw more money. And then so now this is like more towards the. I mean, if you are 70 here, you're 80 here, you're 85, and then you still have about a little over $1 million in your portfolio. And at the same time, that there's this $43,000 that's never going to go anywhere. So in this case, you're 85, and if you're male, and then you're getting pretty close to your end years. You maybe have like 5 more years or even less. If you're female, you probably would have 2 more years, but at the same time, this is for a male. So for female, they do get a little bit less just because their life expectancy is like a little bit higher. So, but it's always like, if the market does do good and you put some in the annuity and then you withdraw less, figure out a way if you can do that. So that's why one of the things like the financial planning is really important right now. So that imagine if you do not have any other expenses, if your mortgage is paid off, if your car payments are paid off, kids are out of your house and they're independent, then you can sort of withdraw a little bit more. I mean, you don't even even if you were to withdraw 10%. Let's see, do you ever run out of money? No, even if you're to run 10%, and if you buy this annuity and then you withdraw 10%, so the first year you get about $130,000, and then there are going to be a couple of times where you get $70,000, $80,000, but then in the market you're still in the market, and then when it does go back up, I mean, you still have like about, let's say after 20 years, this is when you're 90, you still have like almost $1 million, and that's something that you can certainly I mean, if you have kids, grandkids, they can certainly use it to pay for their school. You can certainly donate it to your favorite causes. So there's a lot of things to do, but so there is. So I guess the main thing is like you have to figure out what's really important. Sometimes if you if you are able to, what's the amount that you need, and look at the different sources of income. So, so annuity may not be the right choice for everyone, but it's not always the wrong choice for everyone. A lot of people do talk about how annuity is a bad thing, and even reputed so-called financial planning advisors, not the advisors, but people that write the books and things like that, they do talk about it, but there's no good or bad. I mean, it sort of depends on your situation, and this has a lot to do with like what the market return is. So if you have $1.8 million saved, and then you can wait till, and then when you and you can wait till the last minute when that year when it actually goes up, then you'll probably be in good shape. But then what if the market goes down? Then then that could be an issue. So just something to think about. So I will start in the next one. What I'll do is like I'll start breaking this down into further dividing into fixed income and equity position to see what the return looks like, and then how long you can last, how long the money is going to last. So that's all for now, and I will see you next time. Thank you.